So it was actually with Sister Donahue, and we were in a minivan. It was really funny. There was only 2 minivans in the whole mission, and we were lucky enough to get the minivan. And I was in the minivan, and we were driving, and I see this man, and he's walking his dog, and I felt this prompting, go talk to him. And we're driving in the car. Okay, all right, I'm driving, and okay. So I'm like, sister, we have to talk to that man. She's like, okay. So I just pull over to the side, and we both jump out, and we run over to this man that's walking his dog, and he's like, okay, this is weird. I'm like, hi, we're the sister missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, yada yada. And he's like, okay, awesome. And we're like, what's your name? My name's Benny. And we just left him with a really short message, because it was almost curfew, and we're obedient. And so I got his information down. His name is Benny, and I'm like, okay, we're going to come by at such and such time, and this is where you live, and we'll be there. He said, okay. And so we left, and a couple days later, the time came to meet with Benny. And this happens, but we went to his apartment, and he wasn't there. It was the wrong address. But we knew that he lived here because he was walking his dog around this apartment complex, but it wasn't his apartment. And we're like, okay, we know what's going on here. And so we're like, well, that's not going to stop us. Sister Donna was like, let's just knock all the doors. I'm like, yeah, let's do that. And so we start knocking on all the doors, and, a lot of them are members. And we're like, well, have you seen this man? We're looking for this man. He looks like this. He looks like that. Have you seen him? No, we haven't seen him. And then we keep knocking. Have you seen this man? He looks like this. He looks like, no, we haven't seen him. We're like, we need to find him. And so we keep knocking, and then finally we find someone that knows who we're talking about. He has this dog. He looks like this. We're like, oh yeah, he's new. And we're like, yeah, he's new. We didn't know he was new. He lives like way over there. And we're like, that's not even where he said he was going to be at. We're like, okay, we found him. So we walk over there, and we knock on his door, and he opens it up, and he has like this, blank, like, oh my gosh, he found me. We're like, hey, Betty. And he's like, hey, girls. And we're like, okay, we just walk on in, and we're like, well, we missed you. And he's like, yeah. And we're like, yeah, we're not going to be, we're not going to press it. But so we sit down, and he takes us over to meet his friend, Margie. So we meet with Margie, and they were kind of getting ready to leave. So we left with a quick message, and we set up another appointment. And they're like, okay. And we're like, we're going to be here at this time. And they're like, all right. And so we leave, and then it came time for the day to see them again. And it was personal study, and I was going through How to Begin Teaching on page 176, and going through the bullet points and thinking, okay, what does Benny and Margie need? Thinking about their lesson and everything, because How to Begin Teaching is really essential. And I felt prompted, or I felt impressed that I needed to use this one bullet point that I've never used my whole mission. I was past my year mark, and I've never used this one bullet point. And it was the very first bullet point. And something along the lines of, we're all brothers and sisters, because God is our Heavenly Father. And because of that, we want to address you as brother so-and-so and sister so-and-so. And I said to myself, but it's so weird, because I like going on first name basis with my investigators. I don't know why, but I felt that is something that needed to be said. And then we went into our companionship study, and we started talking about Benny and Margie, and the lesson that we that we would think would be good for them. And I shared with Sister Donahue, this is really weird, but I think we should use this bullet point. And she said, okay, yeah, that's fine. And then we create our lesson, and then it came time to go meet with Benny and Margie. So we go and we knock on the door, and we sit down, and we have our little lesson plans to remind us or whatever. And we were doing our how to begin teaching. And it came time, I felt, to say this one particular, share this one particular bullet point. And we, before this, Sister Donahue and I, in our companionship study, we planned to invite them to be baptized on December, I can't remember, December 20-something, because we invite our investigators to be baptized on the first lesson. So we planned that, and okay, now we're back in the lesson. Sorry, I just had to preface that. Back in the lesson, it came time to, I felt to share this. And I said, Benny, Benny and Margie, we're all brothers and sisters, because God is our Father, so that makes us brothers and sisters. And so we want to address you, Benny, as brother, and he's like, oh, Gross. I'm like, Brother Gross. And Margie, we want to address you as Sister Brackett. I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, Brother Gross and Sister Brackett. And then it hit me. The reason why we needed to share that, they're not married. I didn't know that they weren't married. And that led into the baptismal invitation. I said, Brother Gross and Sister Brackett, will you follow the example of Jesus Christ and be baptized by someone holding the priesthood authority of God on such and such a date? And they said yes. And then I said, Brother Gross and Sister Brackett, on that same day, will you get married? And they said yes. And so, and it happened on that day that we planned. They got married, and then they got baptized. So that was just a really neat experience. Going through personal study and companionship study is so essential because it sets the tone for your investigators. It helps them to progress. And if we didn't do that personal study or that companionship study and role playing, we wouldn't have known that's what they needed. And they knew why we were there. We were there to help them to get baptized and to get married. And they're married. So it was a neat experience.